Well, hello, Cornell. This is Ryan Lombardi coming to you with Real Talk with Ryan today. I'm really pleased to be joined by Cornell junior Dana Karami, who will introduce herself in just a moment, but a junior in the Cornell Brooks School of Public Policy, the newly named and newly started Brooks School of Public Policy. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about giving back and being involved and being civically engaged in your communities and giving back and supporting others. And you'll hear a little bit more about why that's our theme and why Dana's our guest in a couple of minutes as we get to talking. But I think we've got a great episode for everybody today. But with that in mind, Dana, would you mind just taking a moment to introduce yourself to our viewers and anything you want to share about yourself today?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dana, and I'm a junior studying policy analysis and management and minoring in law and society and human development. I'm really excited to be here today as the Vice President of Operations for Cornell Votes, but I'm also the organizational chair for the Translator Interpreter Program, a human ecology ambassador, and I'm also an analyst for the Cornell Intellectual Property and Ethics Club, which is a really exciting thing I'm glad to be a part of. I'm also a researcher working in the Early Childhood Cognition Lab, so glad to talk about any of those and just generally excited to talk about gratitude during this time of year.
Thanks, Dana. Like many students, you have a lot on your plate and you're involved in a lot of things. But you and I got to meet each other and got to know each other a little bit through your role with Cornell Votes, right? And so, and mostly initially virtually, I think, when we were back in a mode where we were virtually all through Zoom. And so that's when we got to know each other. So maybe, and I've really come to appreciate, really come to appreciate the work that Cornell Votes has done on this campus. We got great news recently with the level of engagement, civic engagement. Tell us a little bit more about your work with Cornell Votes and what that organization is about and some of the things that you all have been working to achieve.
Absolutely. So Cornell Votes has really been the star of my time at Cornell. It's like a little baby that I'm very, very sad to leave pretty soon. But Cornell Votes is a nonpartisan university-sponsored organization whose goal is to get students out to vote, get them to be civically engaged, and generally give them anything they need to be able to engage with their democracy. So we're very excited to do that, and we've done it pretty successfully these past few years. But last year, I guess 2 years ago almost now, right before the pandemic, Cornell Votes was a fellowship, but because of some pressures from the pandemic, we were going to shift to a student organization. So it was just me and like 4 or 5 other fellows who were there to start this idea of Cornell Votes and what would that be like during a pandemic? Because as you know, a lot of civic engagement work is very person to person, talking, tabling, and we couldn't really do that anymore because we were all in different states and no one was on campus really. So we had to come up with ways to engage virtually with folks and get them the resources they needed and make sure that they knew how to get to the polls. And laws were changing constantly about who was allowed to vote absentee. So we had to get sort of all this together. And fortunately, it just was a lot of hard work with lots of meetings, lots of Zoom. We were able to do lots of workshops and engage with our coalition members, which are other student organizations across campus that were able to help us and put things together, and engage with lots of university sponsors and admins like you to make sure that students were able to get resources. We held over 100 workshops in 100 days to the election.
Wow.
We were able to do so many great things. We had an event with the mayor and really got the word out virtually to get as many people voting as possible. And we saw the results just recently. There's something called an NSOLV report that institutions like us get that sort of tells us how things went, how many people voted, how many people registered, how they voted. And Cornell, for the first time in recent memory, was actually above the average for all institutions. We had just over an 18% increase in students who turned out and voted. And that was roughly 4,000, I think 100 students. And that's essentially the size, this is what we like to joke about with Dartmouth Votes. We essentially had a Dartmouth size of students vote in 2020 that did not in 2016. An increase, yes. So it's absolutely insane that the huge levels of students who voted in 2020, and we're really excited about that.
And so just to clarify for our viewers today, so from the 2016 presidential election to the 2020 presidential national elections, there was a 18+% increase in the number of students, the percentage of Cornell students who voted, right?
Absolutely.
That's really, really phenomenal. And I know that the data goes back further and we've never seen that kind of a jump like you said, in at least recent history since this entity has been tracking numbers, right?
Yeah, it's been insane. And it's absolutely incredible that that happened during a pandemic where people were a little bit more siloed and voting was a little bit more confusing. So that was great. We're at, I think, a 66% or just over a 66% voting rate on campus. And that's absolutely amazing and above the average again for institutions across the country.
Yeah, that's terrific. And I know this program, among others, I think that you're involved with the Translator Interpreter Program, some others, they call kind of their infrastructure support home, the Einhorn Center for Community Engagement, right? I mean, that's kind of a conduit of space where I think some of the advising takes place and some of the other work. Is that correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. The Einhorn Center is newly revamped. There's lots of opportunities in there, student programs, volunteer opportunities, funding, even some more academic related research work that all focuses on community engagement, how to sort of figure out the needs of the community and where you can support it and bridge gaps. And so the Einhorn Center has just about everything from, art projects, if you're interested in that, to voting, to language, to academic work, just about everything you can think of, you can find an opportunity for in the Einhorn Center. And it's a really, really great hub for everything. And there's lots of great mentors there who are staff that work there that we're just so thankful to have. And really, the Einhorn Center has been great. And I recommend to any student who's thinking about getting more involved in the community, but not sure how, to take a look at the Einhorn Center website. There's great volunteering opportunities. They're putting together a list, I know, of special wintertime places where you can help out. And there's also funding if you work over the winter. So highly recommend to everyone.
So Dana, let me ask, why is this so important to you? I mean, you're involved in a number of things that are within the community engagement realm, and we were talking about the spirit of giving to others. Why is this so important to you, and what advice would you give to students who might have a similar orientation, have a similar interest that you obviously have?
So to me, community engagement is very personal. I'm an immigrant and I grew up in a family of immigrants. And for me, it was very much the idea of, I realize what it's like when you kind of don't have a voice or a voice that's not really listened to. And from there, it kind of became my personal life mission to make sure that anytime I can, I uphold voices and make sure that anything I can do, I do to make sure everyone's being heard. And that's why voting and TIP were the two things that really stuck out to me. Is I think the one way that we all have a voice, if we're able to, is by voting. And I was really like, wow, why are more people not capitalizing on this and making their voices heard? And so that's why I'm really interested in working with Cornell Votes. But then for the Translator Interpreter Program, it's actually quite literal. It's a world where you can't communicate with others what you need to communicate. And if there's a great pool of Cornell students who have that skill and could help bridge that gap for you, then I would love to do that and help out with that effort. And so community engagement to me is very personal. It comes from a place of seeing that there's needs in the community and there's people who can provide those and sort of connecting those two. And that's why I get involved. And any student has probably an experience in their life where they've seen something that they're like, well, I could help out with that and I could make that a little bit better for someone. And to me, if you have that and you're in a place where you can provide some sort of assistance or a resource, then it's a great opportunity to fill that space and try to bridge a gap. It's a lot about it's not so much about going in there and helping so much as bridging a gap and trying to provide something that's not there.
That's very well said. I appreciate your commitment and dedication. I think that one of the goals that we have in the Einhorn Center and more broadly at Cornell is that all students have some type of community engaged learning experience, whether that's, like you said, something more academically related, something in the co-curricular, but that we really want to get as much involvement in the community as possible. I often encourage students to think of this not as just kind of a 4-year stop on a very long journey, but to really think of Ithaca as their home and a place that they need to not only benefit from, but also give to during those 4 years or longer if they're a PhD student or just decide to spend more time here in Ithaca. So I think that's really great advice as well. Do you have any good suggestions for students about that?
If you're really lost and you're sort of overwhelmed by everything that Cornell has to offer, the Einhorn Center is a great first stop because you can sort of explore the whole variety of programs it has. And if you stop by the hub, there's always going to be a lovely staff member who will kind of talk you through it and see where you can go. And how you can use your skills to the best of your ability. And I highly recommend it. It's really interesting. Community engagement always goes back to what I'm learning in school, I find. Right now I'm taking a population health course, and we're talking about how important it is to have like a culturally competent care team that speaks the language and looks like the people, and that connects so much with what we do with the Translator Interpreter Program. Or in a lot of my courses, we talk about policy, so voting policy and how that affects people, and that's exactly what I'm doing with Cornell Votes. So if you see something in your classes that's interesting to you, chances are there is some sort of engagement opportunity to be involved in that work in the Ithaca community, or maybe even broader than that.
And Dana, you referenced the hub, and just so everyone's aware, this is the hub, the Engage Cornell Hub in Kennedy Hall. It's on the
third floor, 300 okay. Kennedy. Yes.
I can get to it. I just didn't remember in my head if it was number 2 or number 3. Okay.
Very fun place. And you get to meet so many people. You know, a big part of the community engagement work that I've done has been meeting so many people from different areas of the university and even outside the university with their community. And it's been so interesting to see people who both have very similar interests as me, and people who are working on different really impressive programs that I've been able to talk to and learn more about. So I know that a big thing for people coming into college, or even in college, is I feel lonely and I feel like I can't find friends. A really great way to try to find friends is through these student organizations or volunteer opportunities, because you all at least share one interest, right? So get that conversation started and talk to people, and you never know what comes out of it.
I'm really glad you made that connection, because the work that my colleagues and I do in student and campus life, and of course we're deeply involved with the Einhorn Center, is really just about that. How do we enable and support students in finding that connection point that you just referenced? And it could be any number of ways. It could be because there's a mutual interest in community engagement. It could be because of a musical organization or a living situation or an athletics team, or an athletic interest or something along those lines. And for me, that's what made a tremendous difference in my undergraduate experience, is when I stepped forward and got connected into something. That's when I started to feel a sense of community. I started to meet other people, make friends, do all that kind of stuff. And so I really appreciate you making that connection. And it's not just college in general that can feel lonely. It's this moment in time coming, we're still in COVID, but, kind of in a different space with COVID, that I think a lot of our students have had a really tough last couple of years. And human connection right now is so important in finding groups of people that you can have that some kind of connection with. I think is just really critical. So I really appreciate you making that connection there.
It's amazing. I see kids who are so excited to do in-person things, like even an in-person club meeting, like on a weekend, like we have, has so much attendance, because I think you're right. Everyone is so excited to go back and have human connection, and community engagement is just about that, right? It's the perfect way to sort of get past everything that's happened and try to get back into the community and make a difference. It's great. Community engagement has so many positive outcomes for not just whoever it is you're going out in the community to get support, but also for yourself and for all your friends. And take a couple friends with you and volunteer. That's like the best thing you can do, and it's helpful, and it's lots of fun things to do in Ithaca, but that's a really great thing.
It's interesting. When I was in school, that was one thing for me. It was really volunteerism, right? I didn't think as much about service learning or community engaged learning at a deeper level, but I did spend a lot of time volunteering. And there was a student organization that I became a part of in my second year, and we had a deep commitment to community service, and so we each had to fulfill a number of service hours each semester as a goal. It wasn't a requirement; it was a target, and we tried to kind of beat our peers and get more service in. And so we would, on the weekends, every Saturday morning and Sunday morning, have different service projects in the community that I was in school in. And it was just deeply gratifying, but also really enjoyable, and I made a lot of friends that way. There's nothing like bonding over some type of service activity together, or going into a space where you're helping others, or maybe it's a cleanup project or whatever. But it gives a lot of opportunity to feel more connected to a community and more connected to your peers as well. So as we get into this kind of season of gratitude, and I find it so important to reflect on these things. I think for one's own well-being, to think about the things we're grateful for. We as a society sometimes can focus on the things that aren't going well in our lives, or the things that aren't going particularly well in our society, or in our, on our campus or something like that. But to take a step back and really be grateful for those things that we feel have made a difference in our lives. Are there things that resonate for you in that regard right now, that as you begin reflecting, that you're grateful for, Dana?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Especially, living through a pandemic can really put you into perspective and seeing the little things that make such a difference in your life. But the transition back to me has been so informative of what things really help me in life. And especially like just being back in person with my friends has made such a difference in how I view college. So, I'm so grateful to have such an amazing support system in my friends, in the community engagement that I do. And I've really learned this semester how grateful I should be for having all of those and the difference it makes in my life and in the way I live my life. But also, I'm in a Science of Wellbeing class actually this semester.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah, one of the exercises we had was to write gratitude letter and share it with someone who we're really grateful for. And really just sitting down to take the time and to think about one person and all that they've done for me was just so amazing for me to just reflect on that, and kind of solidified for me the importance in doing that more often. I know that we live really, really busy lives and it's so easy to get distracted and not take the time to do that. But just thinking about it for a little while is so great because it just makes you feel so grateful for everything you have. And also sharing that with someone is really great because it makes them feel great about the things that they've done for someone else. So it's such a great positive feedback loop when you express gratitude, and whether that's by actions and serving your community or by sitting down and having a conversation with someone, which I will admit can be awkward sometimes, but it's great. It's great to do, and it'll make you feel a lot better.
We often say we don't have time, like we're so busy. And I think about how much time we spend on these things, and
Yes.
that we fill the 30 minutes here, the 40 minutes there. And it's just, it's about prioritizing that time and realizing that doing things like what you just said really will make a difference for your own well-being. Not only and the person that you're able to then share that with, even if it's a little bit awkward, as you said, but it makes a big difference. And so I certainly encourage students to think about how they can take that moment. It's not just for students. I mean, I need that advice too. I mean, we're all going. Think about how we can reflect on it and then share it with others, not only again for them, but for ourselves as well. So really get the Science of Wellbeing. Let me just ask, who's teaching that course? Tell us more about that course for a second.
Yeah, it's been a very life-changing course. Professor Anthony Young in the Human Development Department is teaching it. And I've learned so many things, so many little things in life can make us so much happier. And gratitude is one, forgiveness is another big one, and being engaged with your community is enormously helpful to you. But also I've learned some things about my personality that I was like, maybe this isn't the best thing or actually good. For example, there's something called defensive pessimism. And that's when you're kind of pessimistic about something. You're like, oh, this test is going to be so hard. This test is going to be really hard. And my friends were always, no, relax, it'll be fine. And I kept going with that. And it turns out that that's a strategy that helps you cope with anxiety. And actually, you perform better when you're allowed to be that. And when actually you are told to relax and you try to do that, you perform worse. So I've learned a lot of really interesting facts that sort of justify some of my bad habits, but mostly encourage me to be a little bit more optimistic, be a little bit more grateful, and take the time to really appreciate everything that I have and sort of express that more to people. But gratitude, interestingly, helps you sleep better at night also. So if there's anyone out there who's having trouble with sleep, expressing gratitude can help you do that. It helps you live longer as well. So great things that come from gratitude.
And now you said when I asked you about the course, you said it's been a life-changing course. Did you,
Yes.
I don't mean to hang on your words, but is that the depth with which this course has impacted you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's been so many parts of life that you don't really take the time to consider and wonder what kind of an effect they have on you. The Professor Ong just really walks you through it, and you learn that, wow, these things, if I just reinforce these habits and sort of maybe not do these things as much, it can make a real big difference on my life and everyone's life around me. And it sort of teaches you to be a better person for yourself. And in doing that, you become so much better for everyone else.
That's terrific. Well, it sounds like something we need to get out to as broad of audience as possible. I mean, that's, I think, information we would all value from. or benefit from and would be valuable to us. I know I might have to see if I can audit that course. That would be good. I think we all, again, at different points, where you and I are at different points in our life, obviously, and all those types of things, but it's still, these are good reminders of not getting washed up in everything and losing sight of how to take care of yourself and how to employ some of these strategies. And sleeping better is always a good thing too, for sure.
Always great. Yeah.
Are there any messages that you would like to relay to students in general? Any advice? I already hit on this a little bit, so if you don't have any others, that's fine, but I do want to give you a chance before I sign off here to offer any other perspectives to our viewers today.
The biggest message I want to send out there to anyone who needs to hear it is just take a chance and get involved. I know it's scary always to go to a club meeting where you don't know anyone, or go volunteer at something that might not be on campus. And there's lots of barriers in our minds to trying a new experience out. But what I've learned from doing this is that usually the experiences are overwhelmingly positive, and you get so much more than you think is going to happen. And there's so many positives that come from taking a chance that you should all take a risk and take the chances to go out there and make a difference. And I know that it'll make a difference in the community, absolutely, but it'll also make a profound difference in yourself. I think just being involved with Cornell Votes and the Translator Interpreter Program has made me such a more confident leader and a better student and person, that I hope that you all have similar experiences. If you go out there, take a leap of faith and try things out. You never know, you might be interested in something that you never thought about, and that changes your life forever. So whether it's courses, community engagement, everything, just take a little bit of a leap and see what comes out of it. I promise you, it's more likely that it's going to be positive than not.
Dana, that's great advice. And I'll just say, as we get ready to close up here, that you have certainly made a big difference in the Cornell community, and certainly in the broader Tompkins County community here in the Ithaca area, through your engagement, through your commitment to our community, and to giving to others, as you've advised us all to do, and given such wise words of advice. So thank you to you and your peers and everyone that's made that effort and is really taking their education to another level by being involved like that. So thank you so much. And thanks for your good advice to our viewers today, and for being a part of Real Talk with Ryan. And to all our viewers, thank you for tuning in once again. But stay tuned for our next episode, and I look forward to being with you again. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.